Hello, we're back for the second part of Odyssey Book 23. So, in a sense, we could see that Odysseus is still on his voyage, right? And we know that his voyage is not just a voyage on ships across troubled waters, navigating difficult people, and slaying monsters. We understand at this point in the book that his voyage is also internal, that the Odyssey is a journey of self discovery and reconnection, rebuilding shattered relationships. So as he sits there in his hall with his wife, who still refuses to fully recognize him or acknowledge him, we sense that Odysseus has a few more trials still to pass. So quickly, he schemes and puts together a plan to stall the other Ithacans, that is, the families of the murdered suitors, so that he can buy some time, essentially, to be with his wife and to reignite their love. Sometimes the smartest play is just to play for time. And this is what he does. He creates a fake wedding, a kind of a celebration, which he hopes will send a message to the other villagers, to the Ithacans, the other islanders, that Penelope has chosen one of the suitors. And in a sense, she has. So there's this weird doubling going on with reality and a kind of a play within a play phenomenon. Meanwhile, Penelope is also kind of using her mind to create tests for him. So this is what the ancient Greeks called homophrosyne, right? The like-mindedness of Penelope and Odysseus. And this is a really important feature of contemplating love and enduring love in particular. So Odysseus then goes and basically takes a shower, right? He cleans himself up, presumably like from the blood spatter of the slaughter. And once again, Athena kind of cloaks him in beauty, right? She burnishes his physique and his face and his hair and makes him look like this very sort of beautiful man. And now we enter into the part of Book 23 that is explicitly about physical desire, that is attraction, but not the attraction of the moment, not the sort of head-turning attraction that you feel when someone catches your eye, but rather the attraction for someone that you have known and loved for many, many years, right? A very kind of different phenomenon. So he emerges from his bath and kind of presents himself to Penelope and says, all right, woman, if you are going to be so difficult as to not recognize me, then I'm just going to go sleep in the hall, right? He is kind of teasing her, offering the pleasures of his body to her and then withholding them, right? But she matches him, as is she does, right, time and time again, in their wonderful dance with one another, and says, "Yeah, you should go sleep in the hall. I'm going to tell the maid to move the bed, right, out into the hall for you, and that'll be a good place for you to sleep." And at this point, at this point, during this kind of long and protracted test, Odysseus finally snaps. But it's important to recognize before we get to the significance of the olive tree bed, first of all, what type of female character Penelope is. And she is really an interesting female character because we are, on the one hand, we can see her as a sort of a symbol of female loyalty, of sexual chastity and fidelity. But that is an insufficient rendering, one in which, sort of shallow and superficial readings of this poem incline towards. In actual fact, Penelope is this highly intelligent, powerful woman who resists the power of men in a number of different important ways. And significantly, this is presented to us as a desirable quality. So rather than a kind of a childish, girlish, femininity characterized by um, lack of reason or emotion or passion. We have here Penelope, this character who is a highly rational being, who is capable of manipulation, frankly, who has complex feelings. And we are told this is what you should desire in a woman, not some sort of girlish nymph, right? But a fully realized, mature woman. And this is a very powerful rendering because oftentimes female characters are objectified, or they are turned into a kind of male idea of what femininity should be. And in this case, we see that explicitly rejected. And a woman as a kind of a fully realized person presented to us as someone that we should be interested in, and actually be attracted to and desire. So the metaphor of the olive tree bed is this concept of a kind of the living nature of love, right? That love, despite it being this kind of emotional state and attachment, can be said in a very real way to be a living organism itself, which is why the poet compares it to a tree, which is why that the marriage bed is built out of a living tree, right? The tree grows in the heart of the house. In some sense, the house is built around the tree rather than the other way around, right? So the tree is at the core of the house, and at the core of that is this bed, right? Where the couple intertwines with one another, and become one, right? Where they sort of fuse. And it's also importantly a secret, which is part of this kind of concept of intimacy that the poet is generating, that the two, Penelope and Odysseus, share a secret that only they know, right? Even the poet can only describe it to us metaphorically. He can only show us symbolically what the secret is that they share, that they will persist through time having a secret that belongs only to them. Right? This is a very powerful concept. And yet, the poem requires one more test of Odysseus, because even after he shares the secret, right, which is his knowledge of how the bed was built, right? So the bed, of course, cannot be moved because it is built out of a tree, an immobilized tree. So they share the secret that only the two of them know, right? But even that isn't enough to fully turn her mind, right? It's only when he loses control, finally, right, these highly controlled beings, Penelope and Odysseus snaps and he gets angry at her, right? And he is, also jealous because he feels as though if the bed was moved, perhaps it was moved for another man, right? And in that instant, in the instant that he loses control, that's when Penelope truly recognizes him and allows herself to know him once again. The poem then brings us right into the circle of their arms, right? As they embrace, there is this famous and incredibly powerful image of drowning swimmers coming to shore, and that is what it feels like for them to hold each other. And this is a very moving and profound moment. The poet goes on to describe how when people are truly kind of joining in this intimate way, time changes. The nature of time actually bends and is suspended. And so in this case, Athena represents this by holding back the dawn. At this point, their mutual admiration and respect for one another, and their kind of passionate sort of sense of humor and their teasing, they are completely overcome with how much they love each other, right? And they keep referring to one another as extraordinary, which is the word that is used here, sort of marveling at the other, right? And we can see here how the poet is saying that love really brings out our best selves, right? The part of us that really is the most generous and sort of ennobling. And finally, we end where the poet describes how they jump into bed and make love with each other, and then the poet says, and then after that, right, they lie there and tell each other stories, right? So this is a very a dear moment where the poet is saying to us, really, the best way that I know how to tell you, my audience, right, that I love you, is to tell you stories. It's the best and only way. So in this, I think if we listen closely, we can really hear the voice of the poet speaking to us across all of these centuries and the length and breadth of time. And it is an absolutely magical experience. Thank you. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk again soon.